I'm going to take you through today's lesson, which was the bouncing ball. And you should already be at this point with a video layer, everything all set up with the frame rate. How to go through that and do that and set up your workspace properly is in a previous video. So go ahead and click on that video if you aren't already where we are now. So to get started, I'm going to select my bottom layer and I am going to drag and drop my guide here just so that I don't have to keep switching screens. So I'm going to click enter just so to place this infographic um, picture, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to click on the paintbrush and make sure I am on this layer here, and I'm going to rename it ball so it's clear, and this one infographic. So now that that's all set up, I'm going to make sure that the ball layer is selected and that I make my brush an appropriate size so that um, it doesn't look ridiculous and that I have enough space here. Now I could go ahead and trace this, but um, that's kind of cheating. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the first frame, and I'm going to start all the way over here with a circular shape. And I'm just going to fill that in. You don't have to fill it in. I'm just filling it in because that's how I personally would like to do it. Now, when I switch frames like this, it's going to be hard to tell where I've been, where I'm going. And so in order to tell where I have been and what I've drawn in the past, and if I draw anything in the future, what I've drawn in the future, I'm going to need to open up the timeline menu and select enabled onion skins. Now when I do that, it allows me to see one layer behind and one layer ahead. Now I want to change that, so I'm going to go to the onion skin settings and change it so I can see 5 behind, and you can change it to 5 after, but just going to keep it on 1 because I'm not really going to be looking um, at the frames after. So I'm still in frame 1. So when I go to frame 2, it the opacity here changes, and that changes because this is now one layer in the past. So next in our infographic, I know it kind of looks like I'm tracing this. I'm going to draw the next circle in here. This is not going to be perfect because I am not spending as much time as I should be on here. And so I'm going to keep going and follow the infographic here. Now you can see after this third frame, the ball starts to elongate, and that shows movement. Now in animation, there's such things called stretching and pulling, and that distorts the image to show motion and weight and gravity. So as the ball starts here, it is normal spherical shape, and it starts to elongate here with the force of and trajectory of the ball. And then it hits this baseline here, and this ball flattens out because of the force, and then it starts to elongate again as it comes out of that jump. And so after I draw this third ball here, I am going to start to elongate this. Now remember, the further away you draw your shapes, so the distance between it shows in the final animation, and the further the space is between each ball in this case, the faster it's going to appear. The closer it is, it's going to slow down a little bit because your eye can follow it better. So I'm just filling this in here. And the next one, I'm going to pretty much trace over it because at this point, mine and the infographic line up. And so you can see 5 frames behind, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't see the one that was originally over here. And these are just really rough circles. So if I go back 1, because I have onion skins, the setting is 5 before, 5 after. So you can see the whole entire movement here. So I'm going to turn off this layer and you can see how the ball is going to move. I'm going to move my tracker to the beginning here, and I am then going to turn off onion skins actually, so I can see where my animation ends. And look, I made a mistake. I forgot to move my frames, which is not a big deal. That just means I have to erase, or I can go back in history. In this case, it's just going to be easier if I erase. And so I'm going to click on the next frame, and I am going to turn the infographic back on, click the brush, and I am going to turn onion skins back on. So I can tell that I was here. Now I'm going to draw over here. And I am remembering to change frames. It's super easy to forget to change frames when you have onion skins on. So you need to make sure you are remembering to do that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with 4 frames that you intended to separate into 4 drawings that you intended to separate into 4 frames onto um, one frame. So you go from a ball starting to bounce to just 4 balls just being there. And that just looks a little silly. So once again, I'm going to turn onion skins off and turn off the infographic and move the end of workspace to this last frame here and hit play. And so you can see that this has a rough bounce, and this meets the requirements of the project that we did today. Now we also did a straight up and down bounce, but it has the same process in terms of stretching and pulling as well as weight. And both of the infographics are under animation resources in Schoology, so don't be afraid to look